Hello, everybody. I haven't been around for a while. Been super busy lately with my business that I run. So, and studying. I've got 7 classes right now. So, it's not easy to keep up with the channel, but a few months more and it'll be my main thing again. One of my main things. But I just wanted to do a video on the fly here, thinking about what to talk about. And I've been studying Hebrew a lot, so I'm also getting into Ugaritic. I got this book here. Let's see if I can get it up here. Ancient Ugaritic. Now, Ugaritic is, I'll just go from this book. In 1928, a farmer's plow struck a stone. When the stone was lifted, an ancient tomb was discovered, and they found dozens of clay tablets with a new, previously undiscovered language. And it was a Western Semitic language called Ugaritic. It's similar to the Canaanite language. And this would be about, the timeline of this is about, say, 1370 to 1190 BC. And so it would have lived alongside of Hebrew, probably a little older than Hebrew. And it was like when the Sea Peoples invaded the region and everything, and many nations were destroyed at that time. That's when Ugaritic disappeared. And they're located off the coast of Cyprus. They're on the coast of around, say, in Lebanon, just off the tip of Cyprus, the island of Cyprus, right about level with that. And they found a lot of things about Hebrew. Like, the Hebrew language was dead at one point, and it's been reborn almost, and they've been studying it for hundreds of years, and as they uncover more archaeology and more writings, they learn more about the language. And so, not that we can't translate the Bible, it's pretty accurate, but there's always more details. And and the Ugaritic, this book covers some of these legends in Ugaritic. Now this book gets right into a lot of the language details and syntax and things like this, which is my interest, but it would make a pretty dry video. But it's very similar to Hebrew. It was obviously a precursor language to Hebrew, and a lot of the same words as there are in many Semitic languages, but there's variations in the suffixes and the prefixes. So it's very interesting. And so when we read these stories in the Ugaritic, it can shed some light on what the meaning of some of the words are, a more precise meaning. But also, in this particular case, it spreads a light on some of the legends which the Bible talks about. And this is mind-blowing. This is really interesting. So I wanted to just sort of go over this a bit. Just to say, like, what this stuff is, what this guy is talking about. Now, in the Ugaritic legends, it was mostly like El and Baal were the gods that were fighting with each other, and there were a few others, typical Canaanite gods, right? And in these legends, there was also a Leviathan. He wasn't called Leviathan, he was called Lotan. It would be like Levilotan. Levilotan, right? And it's the same, it's a seven-headed sea creature. In the Ugaritic, I'm just going to read this here a bit. In the Ugaritic text, Lotan is depicted as a dragon-like monster who was defeated by Baal. Lotan is described as Slit Disrasum, mighty one with 7 heads, and fleeing serpent, and a crooked serpent, designations that find parallels in biblical texts. See Isaiah 27:1 and Revelation 12:3, where it talks about Leviathan. Lotan is often associated with Yam. Now, Yam means sea, the sea. It's the word Yam in Hebrew is sea, but in Ugaritic, Yam is actually a god of chaos, which is linked directly to the sea. Okay? And Lam, another mysterious aquatic monster, and Tunan. The distinctions between these entities are not always clear and perhaps should not be sought. In the Bible, Lotan shows up as Leviathan, commonly rendered Leviathan. The monster Tunan appears as Tanin, or plural Taninim, or the hybrid Tanim. That the significations of Leviathan, Lotan, and Tunan, as well as that of Yam, romp in each other's semantic fields is evidence from such passages as Job 7:12. So let's take a quick look here. Okay, I'm going to have to open it up in the Hebrew as well. But here are some examples of these sea creatures appearing in the Bible text. So if we look here, am I a sea or a whale? Job 7:12. Am I a sea or a whale that you set a watch over me? Now in the Hebrew, Hayam. This is a question mark. It comes at the beginning in Hebrew. Hayam. A sea? Am I a sea? If Tanin, that's the Tanan, that's the Tunan, that sea monster, right? The King James translated it as whale, but it's Tanin, right? That you set over me a watch, right? So there's Tanin. Am I a sea? Am I, what he's saying, am I Yam or Tunan that you set watch over me? Okay. Psalm 74, 13 and 14. So let's take a look at that. Psalm 74. This is a great tool, Blue Letter Bible. 13. Did you divide? No. Thou did divide the sea by the strength. Thou breaks the heads of the dragons in the waters, right? And it literally says, you did divide or split open by your strength, Yam, right? So there's no definite article here, but it is poetry. But it's personifying the sea. Um, like Ugaritic personifies the sea as Yam, like one of the gods. And you broke the heads of the Taninim, which the King James translates the dragons in the waters. The Taninim in the waters. So that's those sea creatures in the legends. Okay, and also in Psalm 74:14, you broke the heads of Leviathan. Those are plural heads. It's a seven-headed creature. There's Leviathan. Leviathan. So that's Lotan. In different Semitic languages, you'll find a few consonants added here and there, but it's the same name basically. So it's where these legends were known to the people during the time of the first temple, and or known to Job, and they allude to them. Now here's another one, the Rephaim. Okay, let's go back to the Rephaim. Are also talked about. They're called the Raphauma. Okay, now I'm going to read from the book here again. The Ugaritic texts indicate the Raphauma are inhabitants of the underworld and may be deified royal ancestors. In the legend of King Kurta, for example, Kurta mourns the loss of his whole family who have become Raphauma. The ongoing function of the Raphauma is to watch over the dynastic continuity. Other Ugaritic texts suggest that Rapu refers mainly to manly vigor and vitality, an expected attribute of any king or leader. Thus, in the legend of Akhat, Danel is regularly described as Rapu, and this word is frequently a parallel to Hebrew. In the Bible, the Raphauma of our Ugaritic texts appear as Rephaim. As in the Ugaritic text, they are inhabitants of the underworld, identified in some passages as deceased leaders and kings. For example, Isaiah 14:9. Let's take a look. Oops, hang on. 14:9. Okay, Sheol, hell from beneath is moved for thee to meet thee at thy coming. So Sheol from below is moved for you. Okay? To meet your coming. It stirs up to you. Okay, well that's okay. And the Rephaim, see they translated it stirs up the dead for thee. But it literally it says here, the Rephaim, all the chief ones of the earth. The Rephaim, all the chief ones of the earth. it has raised up from their thrones all the kings of the nations. So it's the dead kings. I see. There it is right there. Rephaim. Okay. So back to reading. Occasionally in the Bible, the Rephaim are described as giants of the past. For example, the description of the bed of the last of the Rephaites, Og, king of Bashan, that's in Deuteronomy 3:11. Most people are familiar with that. His bed was more than 9 cubits long and 4 cubits wide. So they was also translated as giants, Rephaim, right? That's the problem I have with like why I'm studying the Bible, because here Rephaim is translated as the dead, and Rephaim is translated as giants. You're not going to know that in the English version. You find all these things, that are kind of buried in the translation. So admittedly, the size of his bed does not directly translate into his size, but it is logical to assume a similar scale. Perhaps this suggestion of abnormally large physical proportion is a projection of the significance of the Rephaim as leaders or kings onto their physical dimensions. Okay. And there's some other good insights. I wanted to mainly talk to make this video about, well, Yam is a god in Ugaritic. It's a deity, and also Mut is a deity. Mut is death. The word mot in Hebrew is death. So that's a divinity in. Like in the Bible and Proverbs, you'll see death and destruction are never satisfied, or like death is never satisfied in Habakkuk 2:5. Job 18:12-13. Calamity is hungry for him, disaster is ready for him when he falls. It eats away parts of his skin. Death's firstborn devours his limbs. Right? So it's the Bible. In poetry, the Bible can personify death, and in poetry, the Bible can personify the sea. And in poetry, like prophecy is also poetry. In poetry, the Bible talks about Leviathan and Tannin and these sea creatures and things like this. And these are, it's not like the legends of Ugarit are the same as the legends of the Hebrews. It's that God, in the Hebrew mind, or in the biblical text, God, Yahweh, has defeated all of these things. They're all defeated foes. And so the poetry talks about God's mighty power over them, and how he has destroyed them. And it's not like a forgotten thing, because the Canaanites were still all around the Israelites, and they were still believing this stuff. And the Hebrews were saying they have all been defeated by our God. So this is the interesting thing that we start to see with these legends of the Ugaritic. That we used to think, El and Baal were the gods of the Canaanites, but now we're seeing it was the Rephaim the Leviathan, the Tanin, death, Mut, Yam, the sea, they were all divinities. And in the Hebrew, they're defeated divinities. Okay? And then we go some textual insights we can get into. It's really interesting. And El, right? El is there's a lot more details about Baal, right? Or Baal. Um, he defeats the sea god Yam and the dragon Lotan or Leviathan. His elevated position shows itself in his power over meteorological phenomena. Like the battle between Elijah and the prophets of Baal regarding the ability to produce rain. Okay? And, Elijah had, the prophets of Baal were Elijah's foe, and he beat them over and over that his God is more powerful than their God. Okay? Epithets of Baal, Prince or Lord of the Earth, Powerful Baal, Most Powerful of the Heroes, Rider of the Clouds. Now this is also important, that Baal was also called the Rider of the Clouds. Psalm 68, 4 and 5, for example, where this epithet is applied to Yahweh. Sing to God, sing in praise of his name, extol him who rides on the clouds. Rejoice before him, his name is the Lord. So, I guess if you think about it from a reality, okay, now, I talked about it from, the Hebrews and the Canaanites. So the Canaanites believed something similar to this Ugaritic stuff. And the Hebrews were saying our God conquered those gods. But from the reality, from God's perspective, is that these names were attributed to those false gods. And God, in parting the waters and in doing all these things in Egypt, he showed his power over the forces of nature, and to show that he is the God of all of those things, and that those other, what they called gods, are not gods at all. And you could take it from what they call an apocalyptic view, would be more like how Enoch speaks, and what I've talked about quite a bit on my channel, is that the demons or fallen angels, that the demons rebelled and mated with women on the earth and made children who were greater in stature, like giants, and who demanded to be worshipped like gods. So there's that possibility too, is that these Baal and Anat and different ancient gods of Canaan were actually the Rephaim, and that they are defeated. But when they die, their spirits continue as a terrestrial spirit, and that's what in the New Testament is what was called demons, who would possess people and cause havoc, and Jesus would overpower the demons, and his crucifixion took all power away from them. They had a certain amount of power because the whole society was all set up around these myths that they had created, and Jesus Christ destroyed all of that, and Christianity took over the world from there, the Roman world, right? So It's pretty interesting stuff anyway, and we can learn a lot about the Bible from how the Hebrews viewed this. Some of these verses and some of these figures that are talked about, these mythical figures, or in the Revelation, Leviathan appears again, the seven-headed beast. But Leviathan in the Revelation is actually, it's a construct of man. It's a government. It's a belief system. So it's not something that actually exists. It's a construct of society, that all these seven heads are seven authorities that are all working together against God's plan and against God's will. And so it's like a government or a secret society or something like that. So that's when the truth comes to light on what these great sea creatures are, because in symbolically the people are water, the sea is the multitudes of people, and the beast lives in the sea, which is just a social construct among the people. And this is the final foe to be defeated, are these social constructs. So it's very interesting to see this back in, like, this is in the time of the Hittite Empire, seeing these things were very real to people. And there's Asheroth, is which we hear about often. Nowadays it would be like Mother Mary in the Catholic realm, like a cohort of Jesus, co-matrix they call her, or co-redemptrix, which is what they call her. It's not what I call her. I call her a human being, which she's what made God in the flesh. Well, she provided the flesh. God provided the spirit to make God in the flesh. So she's not a goddess, she's a human being. That's the whole point of the gospel, right? But anyway, in ancient times, Asheroth was a great goddess, the consort of El. Her full name was the Lady Who Marches Upon the Sea. They call, like the Catholics will call Mary the Lady of the Sea. It's very interesting how it all fits with these ancient myths. She's particularly worshipped in Tyre and Sidon, which helps us to understand Jezebel's actions. Epithets of this goddess include the creator of the gods. Oh, the mother of God, right? The deities are sometimes called her children. Oh, her children are the gods. Oh, okay. The Great Lady, in the Bible, usually associated with a cultic pole. It can be set up or planted like a tree. It can be chopped down. Okay, in Deuteronomy is where it's set up like a tree. In Deuteronomy 7:5, it can be chopped down. The Bible records other unspecified cult objects made for Asheroth. In 1 Kings 15:13, we're told of King Asa's grandmother, Makkah, made a repulsive image, Mitplaset, for the worship of Asherah. I've seen repulsive images about Mary. I went to a Roman Catholic school in kindergarten, and it was run by nuns at that time. And there were other teachers who were learning to be nuns, like younger women who didn't dress like nuns, but they were like under the authority of the nuns. And I come in the morning to go to school, and I got there early, And they had all these candles, all in the kindergarten class, all these candles around. And they had this big statue of Mary at the front of the class. And all these, like at the bottom of the statue, she was standing on a hill. But the hill was all these, like, babies. Like, they looked like they were dying babies or screaming suffering babies or something. Like, I walked in, I'd seen this thing, and I was looking at the base of it. There was all these babies around it, and I was like, what the, trying to figure out what is this. And then the one of the younger teachers grabbed me and said, no, school's not on yet, and took me out of the class, and they locked the door. And then, like, 10 minutes later, they let us in the class, and it was all gone, and they wouldn't even talk about it. So it was like, I don't know what the hell they do behind closed doors, but I saw that. I don't know. Anyway, stranger things have happened, I guess. So anyway, Manasseh, in 2 Kings 21:7, Manasseh sets up an image or idol, a pesel, of Asherah in the temple of the Lord. In 2 Kings 23:4, Josiah orders the high priest to remove from the temple of the Lord all the articles, or kalim, the utensils, made for Asherah. In 2 Kings 23:7, we find woman weaving for Asherah. The Bible records 400 prophets of Asherah, 1 Kings 18:19. Her name is pluralized in the Bible to refer to goddesses in general. Examples: Exodus 34:13, Isaiah 17:8, Jeremiah 17:2, Micah 5:14. So then there's Yam. His name is the sea. In Hebrew, Yam is sea, the Mediterranean Sea in particular. He represents the chaotic effect and power of water. Closely associated to El, referred to as the son of El, referred to as the beloved of El, the enemy of Baal over the issue of who should be granted a temple. Epithets include the Prince of the Sea and the Judge River. Associated with and perhaps occasionally identified with various monsters: Lotan, Tunan, Arishu, Atiku. The Bible contains many references to sea, Yam, that allude to its mythological and cosmological significance. Okay. Allusions to a cosmological battle with the sea. Allusions made in the description of the crossing of the Red Sea, where God conquered the sea, right? Allusions made in the description of crossing the Jordan River, where when they crossed the Jordan River and they carried the ark, and the Jordan River parted also. Okay? The chaotic power of the sea is also called to mind in contexts that assert the Lord's superiority over it. The symbolism of the architectural features of the temple complex. The sea must stand motionless and subdued before the Lord. The Solomon's great sea basin in front of the temple, is the sea is motionless and subdued before the Lord, right? Thus, in the new heaven and new earth, where all opposition to the Lord's rule has been removed, there will be no more sea, as in Revelation 21:1. Okay, and then he talks about Mot, the god of death. The Hebrew word Mot means death, right? The god of death, his name means death, the great swallower of life, the life of both gods and humans. Whereas great swallower is vividly described as having a lip to the earth and a lip to the heavens, a tongue to the stars. This is in the Ugaritic text, right? Not worshipped like other deities in the Ugaritic pantheon. Epithets include beloved of El, the hero, son of the gods. See, so these are the sons of the gods, right? Which you will find in the book of Job, at the chapter 1, where the sons of the gods, B'nai Ha-Elohim, the sons of the gods, or sons of God, gather together, and Satan comes among them accusing Job, right? Or in Genesis chapter 6, where the sons of God went into the daughters of men and created offspring, or whatever, right? Created the Rephaim. So, he's one of the Mot is one of the main enemies of Baal. In contrast to Baal's association with fertility, Mot is associated with death and decay. Okay, so the Bible contains several possible allusions to Mot, in which he is personified as a kind of a demon or a demoted god who reigns over Sheol. Okay? Proverbs 27:20, death and destruction are never satisfied. I've already read these things. Okay? But death is never satisfied. Death opens her mouth wide. Those kinds of things in Hebrew poetry. Dan Ev, which is sort of reminds me of the name Daniel, but I don't think it has anything to do with it. Daniel would mean El is God, Dan is judge. So my judge is God, Daniel. That's what that means. Okay. Dan El, it would be God as judge or something. The king of the legend of Akhat is sometimes advanced as a referent in Ezekiel 14:14-20 and 28:3. The biblical Daniel was Ezekiel's younger contemporary, yet Ezekiel refers to Daniel as though he were a legendary character. Let's take a look at this. Ezekiel 14. Ezekiel 14:14. Yeah, though these three men, Noah, Daniel, and Job, were in it, they should deliver their own souls by their righteousness. Okay? So he's putting Daniel in with Noah and Job. Okay? When Daniel was alive at the same time as Ezekiel. Okay? And Ezekiel 14:20. Let's see what he talks about there. Yeah, same thing. Though Noah, Daniel, and Job were in it, as I live, says the Lord, they shall deliver neither son nor daughter, but their own souls for their own righteousness. Right? And Ezekiel 28:3. Now I want to see this one because Ezekiel 28 is the prophecy against King of Tyre, like the devil kind of, Satan or something like that. Where'd he go? Ezekiel. Ezekiel 28:3. Oh yeah, okay. Behold, you are wiser than Daniel. There is no secret that they can hide from you. Say to the prince of Tyre, thus says the Lord, because your heart is lifted up, and you have said, I am a god, I sit in the seat of God in the midst of the seas, yet you are a man and not a god. though you have set your heart as the heart of God. Behold, you are wiser than Daniel. There is no secret that they can hide from you. So yeah, so he does sort of allude to Daniel as this old and godlike figure. So he's saying that might be alluding not to Daniel the prophet, but to Daniel, who appears in the Ugaritic texts as a god. Okay? So, in conclusion, it's an interesting book, this one. I mean, it's really dry and it doesn't give you all of the Ugaritic text. You can buy an English translation of the Ugaritic text if you're interested in that. But the Ugaritic, because we have all these words in a context, it helps to give a better, clearer understanding of the meaning of some of the Hebrew words. Some of them we already have a clear understanding, and the Ugaritic also has those same words, like house, head, foot, you know, they're all the same, but some of these unclear words, it helps to clarify them. But what I found fascinating is the stories of the Leviathan and Tanin and the Rephaim. How it wasn't new to the biblical writers, and it wasn't new to the ancient Hebrews. These were legends. These are Canaanite legends that God conquered these creatures, right? And I guess the creatures returned and revived, but they revived as a spirit, just like the Rephaim were real like mighty men, and when they died, they became a terrestrial spirit, an evil spirit. So it's the same as these legends of the sea serpent with the 7 heads was conquered, and it was a myth god, a mythical god that was conquered by God in the ancient times and forgotten, but it revives and comes back as this social construct, as this entity that again has to be conquered, which is pretty interesting stuff. So I think I'm going to study a little bit about Akkadian also, because Akkadian is also very similar to Hebrew. It's another Semitic language. The Sumerian is not. Sumerian is quite different. It's not a Semitic language. It's kind of in a category all by itself. So it would be interesting to see. There's a lot of Akkadian out there, like probably several volumes to read an English translation of it all. But it would be interesting to get a book like this about Akkadian to see like how the study of Akkadian has affected the understanding of the ancient Bible texts. And they probably have some kind of legends like that too. Interesting stuff. Well, thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you next time.